Hey up everyone, the last UFC pay-per-view of the year takes place this Saturday, UFC 310, and it's fair to say that the UFC are going out with a bang. I mean, the card is consistent of quality from the early prelims all the way and up to the main event, so it makes sense that I make predictions from the start of the card all the way until the end. Now to start off UFC 310, we have a heavyweight matchup between Kennedy Nzechukwu, however you say his name, I always mess it up, against Lucas Brzeski, and I'm gonna go with Kennedy Nzechukwu by first round knockout. In his last outing was very recent, UFC 308, he finished the GOAT, Chris Barnett, in the first round. Bit of a weird finish because Chris Barnett was injured, but regardless, he got him out of there in the very first round. Whereas when it comes to Lucas, well, he got finished at UFC 304 by Mick Parkin, so, you know, not exactly going into this the best. I think Kennedy's got a lot of momentum right now. You know, second fight at heavyweight, can't really go wrong. I think he's going to do a demolition job on Lucas Brzeski. Next up, we have Clay Guida taking on Chase Hooper. I don't know what to say about this. Clay Guida's 42 years old and hasn't won a fight in 2 years, whereas Chase Hooper is still very young and he's looked very good in his last two performances, getting submission wins over Jordan Leavitt and also Borshev as well, who looked great in his last outing before that. And he's looked really good and looked like he's improved a lot as well. I believe these two have had a grappling competition in the past, which Chase Hooper got the better of Clay Guida, and I feel like that's just going to pass off over to MMA as well. I think Clay Hooper's going to get Clay Guida out of there by, you know what, I'm going to go with a TKO. I think he's going to get a ground and pound finish in the second round. And after this, we have probably the most boring fight on the card in my opinion. Actually, there's another one up for debate for that, but we'll get into that one later. And that is Michael Chiesa taking on Max Griffin. Just a complete and utter nothing fight. No one was asking for this fight. No one cares about it. I think Michael Chiesa is going to win. Had more experience, the better fighter. His last performance, he beat up a washed Tony Ferguson. Max Griffin's always been a very hit and miss fighter. He's never ever looked like a world beater, but you know, he's always been somewhat solid in certain performances. But this is an absolute nothing fight, arguably the most boring fight of the card. After this, we have Cody Durden taking on Joshua Van. Now, Durden retired Matt Schnall all the way back in September, whereas Josh Van, he was on UFC 306, I believe it was, you know, the Nosh card, the Sphere card, and had an absolute banger against Chairez where he was able to get the finish. And I'm quite looking forward to this fight. I feel like it's a classic striker versus grappler. You know, Cody Durden, the grappler, Joshua Van, the striker. Van bounced back from a bad knockout after like a 2-month layoff against Chairez. And I don't feel like Cody Durden's going to be good enough to stop Joshua Van. I think Joshua Van is going to get a decision win against Cody Durden, but I'm hoping maybe he can get a finish over Cody Durden because I do like Joshua Van a fair bit. He's got a nice style and is very fun to watch. And then the final fight of the early prelims, we got former champion Chris Weidman taking on Eric Anders. Kind of a nothing fight as well, but it was meant to be on UFC 309 until Eric Anders pulled out on, what, a few hours notice, pretty much on the night of the card. So we rescheduled it for UFC 310, understandable. Weidman's last performance, he eye poked the fuck out of Bruno Silva and got the nod for it. I can't remember if it was a no contest or what, but that was his last performance. Eric Anders, one of those fighters who's always just been very, you know, hit and miss, both fairly washed. Nothing far. I'm gonna go with Eric Anders. I just keep thinking back to when Chris Weidman came back and fought. Was he? Who did he fight? That was he. I'm trying to think who it was. Can't remember who it was. Oh, Brad Tavares, and Brad Tavares just absolutely battered Chris Weidman. I feel like Eric Anders is going to do the same against Weidman. Maybe a bit more competitive than the Brad Tavares fight, but I think Eric Anders is going to put somewhat of a beating on Weidman. I don't think Weidman's got it anymore when it comes to reactions and speed and just on the feet. Maybe when it comes to grappling, but on the feet, I feel like Eric Anders is going to tag him a fair bit and go to a decision victory. I can see this fight being quite boring. And then we move on to the prelims, and the fight that starts off the prelims is some great matchmaking in my opinion, and that's between Randy Brown and Brian Battle. Now, I simply think that this is a 50-50 matchup, which is why I love it so much. I feel like there's a lot of people sleeping on Randy Brown. When you think about who he's lost to, the majority of his losses are against, you know, well-known welterweights, people who've been in the rankings. You got Bilal, you got Vicente Luque, you got JDM, you've also got Nico Price, but we'll shut the fuck up about that. You also got Brian Battle, he's got a lot of momentum right now, and that's what I feel like a lot of people are going with him. And I do find him fun. I prefer him over Randy Brown. I prefer if Brian Battle won. But I think Randy Brown's going to win. Very well-rounded, you know. I think like he's 34 or something, so he's getting on, but not exactly washed, I would say. Again, he's only lost to, like, really good opponents other than Nico Price. But yeah, I just don't know. I think Randy Brown's going to get it done. I think Brian Battle might struggle with the grappling of Randy Brown. Like, I'm hoping this is a good matchup, but I could also see it playing out being quite boring. You know, I think it's going to be a decision win for Randy Brown, but I do want Brian Battle to get the W. Next up, we have one of the biggest fights on the card, and definitely should be on the main card, and that's between Movsar Evloev and Aljamain Sterling. Why this fight isn't on the main card is absolutely baffling to me. This is some great matchmaking again. Two people in the 145 division who could potentially be fighting for a championship bout after this next victory, or maybe another win after that, given, you know, the whole thing going on with Volk and Diego Lopez and all stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is great matchmaking. I like the clash of styles. I find this very interesting. Some people have made arguments to me on TikTok that, oh, well, people just don't really get excited for this fight. I understand it because, let's be honest, they are not the most entertaining to watch. But at the same time, I just think the clash of styles make it very interesting to predict, and just makes you on your edge to want to know how it's going to play out. I don't think the actual thing itself could be fantastic. Then again, it actually could, because sometimes when you see two grapplers go at each other, it either becomes like a fight like Arman Sarukian and Gamrot, where it's just loads of nice fucking scrambles, what was dead fun to watch, nice fast pace, or it becomes like you just, you know, if you don't want to risk going for a takedown and they just strike out, sluggish striking becomes a bit of a brawl, like Colby versus Usman, both of the fights. So I'm very much interested in this fight. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm quite torn. 1 minute I think Aljo, the next minute I think Movsar. I think I'm going to go with Aljo, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know what it is, just the way he dominated Calvin Kattar isn't spoken about enough in my opinion. I think I'm going to go with Aljo. Tomorrow I'll probably think Movsar, but I'm going with Aljamain Sterling by decision. This fight definitely deserved to be on the main card. Next up, we were meant to be getting a fight between Vicente Luque and Nick Diaz, but unfortunately Nick Diaz has had to pull out the fight. So now we're getting Vicente Luque taking on Thembit Garimbo. And I haven't watched too much of Garimbo, so I'm not going to act like a big, you know, but what I have seen of him, I think he's quite well-rounded. I think he's a massive underdog, so if you're a betting man, you might be worth putting a bit of money on Garimbo if he's part of your parlay or whatever you accumulate, or just a single straight-up bet. You know, Luque, if this was prime Luque, I'd go with him all day, but it's no longer prime Luque. He's lost a step, and he's only 33. He's just been in too many wars. His chin's gone. He is very well-rounded still. We saw that displayed against RDA, but I don't know, man. I'm going to go with Luque because I just know more about Luque, but I'm not exactly confident in picking Luque. I just think he's lost a step, and he's been finished a couple times now. He got it cracked against Jeff Neal and Buckley. I'm going to go with Garimbo, but I'm going to go with Luque by decision. But again, I'm not fully confident in that pick. In the last fight of the prelims, we have Battle of the Washed. And that is between Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith. You know, he's always great on paper. Yeah, Battle of the Washed, this one. Reyes got a nice finish in his last outing, and everyone loved it because we haven't seen Reyes win since he beat John Jones in 2019. And yeah, he got the finish over Dustin Jacoby in the first round. And I'm just hoping he can keep on that momentum, but I still believe his chin's just absolute fucking dust. I reckon if you just go against Dominic Reyes, he'll be all discombobulated, fucking panicking around, you know. But Anthony Smith, is he capable of going? I don't know, man. Anthony Smith, God, because like he beat, is it Victor or Vitor Petrino? And I don't know, man. This is hard when it comes to just two washed fighters. It just depends who's more washed. Anthony Smith, I'd say, is less washed, but also, I just don't know. He lost to Roman Dolidze in his last fight on like a fucking few days' notice, and Dolidze is a middleweight fighter, so I don't know. This is a shot in the dark. I'm gonna go with Reyes just because I simply want him to win, but I'm not confident in picking either Smith or Reyes because again they're just both washed. But I'm gonna go with Dominic Reyes by decision, and maybe it's somewhat controversial because you could maybe say Smith wins. And then we have the main card, and to start off that main card, we have Nate the Train, and then we also have him taking on Doohoo Choi, who... The main thing I remember about him, he did get a victory this year, but the main thing I always remember him is just that Cub Swanson fight, because he clearly took a lot out of him. For guys who don't know, he was meant to be the next big thing. He was a big prospect. He had a war with Cub Swanson, lost that war, and then he just fell off a cliff. Really, that's exactly what happened. But he's taking on Nate the Train. Should it be on the main? Not really, but I feel like this fight's guaranteed to be an absolute banger in a war. So I understand it at the same time. You know, if you like doing this, where they start off main cards with some bangers, this is a banger. Should it be on the main card over something like, you know, Movsar and Aljo, even Randy Brown and Ryan Battle? Not really, but I understand it for entertainment purposes. But yeah, Nate the Train got a first round finish in his last fight, and Doohoo Choi got a second round finish in his last fight. So they've both got wins, both got finishes coming off their last performances. It's just a good little war, and I think Nate the Train's going to get I'm going to go with a first round knockout for Nate the Train. Now, next up, we have Bryce Mitchell taking on Kron Gracie. This is obviously the fight I'm referring to when I'm saying this shouldn't be on the main card. Yes, I said it for the last one, but at least I understand why they would with the entertainment value. Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie. What the fuck are we doing here? What? I don't get this at all. I don't think this will be as entertaining as Aljo versus Movsar. I feel like it's just going to be Bryce Mitchell taking down Kron Gracie and just lying on him for 15 minutes. I feel like this is more of a tune-up fight for Bryce Mitchell, because his last fight he got sparked out by Josh Emmett. He got sent to the shadow round. And Kron Gracie, the last time we saw him, he got done in by Charles Jourdain. I don't know how he's ended up on the main card. I don't think Kron Gracie has that much name value, and so same goes to Bryce. I think he has a bit, Bryce Mitchell, but nothing crazy. I just don't get how this is on the main card. I think it's going to be a shit fight. I think it is a tune-up fight for Bryce Mitchell. I just don't understand this at all. I think Bryce Mitchell's going to get a boring decision win, and it's going to slow down the pace of the card a fair bit, in my opinion. After this, we have a #1 contender fight in the heavyweight division between Cyril Gane and Volkov. This is a rematch, and I think that Cyril Gane's going to win this by decision. He got a decision win over Volkov. I believe it was like 2020 or 2021. I remember I had COVID at the time. I remember trying to watch it, and I just felt sick. So I don't remember it clearly, but I do remember it a bit, and not for the best of reasons. It was quite a boring performance from what I remember, but Gane did what he had to do. He did the job. I remember it being quite dominant. I could be wrong on that, but I remember he was the clear winner. But now Volkov, you know, got that nice big win over Sergey Pavlovich. People are really thinking Volkov could get it done this time. I disagree. I think Cyril Gane's going to get a decision win. I just think he's on a different level compared to Volkov. And then I think Gane beats Volkov. He gets the fight against Tom Aspinall. I actually really like that fight, because I actually like Cyril Gane, believe it or not, even though he is low-key a duck and he is quite frustrating at times. I still love the guy. And I think he's going to beat Volkov. People are like, oh, Volkov, you know, he has improved. Has he, though? I mean, he just battered Pavlovich. And don't get me wrong, that's very impressive. You know, that's very impressive, because I just feel like he was the wrong style for Pavlovich, that's all. I think it was more to do with the style rather than how good Volkov actually is. I think Gane's got this. It's Gane's first fight of 2024, unfortunately. This was meant to happen on UFC 308, I believe, like 2 months back. Unfortunately, it didn't. But now we're getting it, and I just think that, you know, Gane wins. Yes, it's 3 rounds, but I still think that Gane's going to win this one. After this, we have the co-main. Now, this was meant to be the main at first. Well, at least Shavkat was meant to be the main against Belal Muhammad, but Belal Muhammad pulled out. So then in stepped Ian Gary. Ian Gary was meant to take on Joaquin Buckley for the last Fight Night card of the year, but he said, you know what, I'll take my chances against Shavkat. Undefeated. This is undefeated. They've trained together. I love this fight. I think Shavkat's going to get it done. But I think, I'm not super confident in that. I actually believe Ian Gary could beat Shavkat. What has Shavkat been, you know, what's he been criticised for the most in his MMA career? I would say for not moving his head. Ian Gary's a good striker. Now I know that he went down the grappling route against, what's-his-face, MVP, but I feel like that's understandable. Showcase some very well-rounded, good MMA skills, so I don't think it's as bad, but I understand why people are like, oh, well, he had to grapple the striker. Regardless, he also used his grappling against Jeff Neal, whereas when Shavkat fought Jeff Neal, he just kind of fucking wore him down and did a bit of everything. Ian Garry played it a bit safe. Nothing wrong with that. I don't think that takes away from how good of a striker he actually is. But I think he could catch Shavkat. Does he have the most stupid power in the world? No, but he is quite precise, and he has got good fight IQ, I believe. Now, I am interested in this because it could possibly be both of them doing 5 rounds for the very first time, and it's a big question mark for both of them when it comes to their gas tank. Another big question mark for Shavkat is his defensive grappling, but I don't think that'll be tested as much. It'll be interesting if Ian maybe tries to attempt to take down now that he's used it against, get Jeff Neal and MVP. Will he use it against Shavkat? I don't think so, but the possibility of it is quite interesting in my opinion. And I don't know, just can Shavkat go at that pace for 5 rounds? I'm not sure. And it's testing Ian Garry's defensive grappling. We haven't really seen his defensive grappling tested much. Now, Shavkat's going to test that. I really can't wait for this fight. I think it's a hard fight to call. If I had to put money on it, though, I'm going to go with Shavkat by 4th round submission. I can see him getting a 4th round submission, but again, I wouldn't count out Ian Garry because I do think he has a solid chance in this fight. And obviously, the winner should be taking on Belal Muhammad. I think there's no question about that. And then we get the main event, the last championship fight of the year between Alexander Pantoja and newcomer to the UFC, Kai Asakura. This will be his UFC debut, and I believe if he wins this, well, he's the fastest person to ever win UFC gold because it's, on his debut. I don't know who won it. Someone told me in my chat the other week that someone won it in the second fight. Well, this is obviously Kai's first fight. And I don't know too much about Kai. I'm going to be honest. I know that he's a striker. I think he's a bit of a power puncher. I saw a highlight the other week and I also saw him knocking out my boy Kyoji Horiguchi, which fucking annoys me because I like Horiguchi a lot. But yeah, he knocked him out quite bad. I think Horiguchi also finished Kai Asakura later on. But regardless, he's able to finish opponents. He's a big guy for 125. So I believe he actually used to fight at 135. He's quite a big flyweight. So I'm very interested to see if he can crack Pantoja because Pantoja's hittable. He just sets a stupid pace that not many people are able to follow. But Kai Asakura, there's a lot of question marks at the moment for me because I haven't really watched much of him. But I'm very interested in this fight. I'm going to go with Pantoja because, again, I've seen more of him. He sounds more well-rounded. He's very experienced. He's beat Brandon Moreno 3 times. He's beat Brandon Royval twice. He is very much accomplished. A very, very good flyweight. Second greatest flyweight of all time. I think it's quite fair to say. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Pantoja by decision over Asakura. But this is more because I don't know much about Kai Asakura, so I don't feel confident in picking him if I simply don't know enough about him. And those are my predictions for the card. Again, I think this is a very solid pay-per-view to end the year, but let me know in the comments what you guys think about this UFC 310 card. Are you happy with it? What do you think of the stinker fights? What do you think of the best fights? Which fights are you looking forward to the most? Let me know in the comments, and let me know some of your predictions as well. Thank you for watching the video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.